Hi, my name is James. I lived in America. I'm technically an American, and right now I'm being harassed by two young men. Not sure what they want from me, but we'll see how it goes.
Running. My name is Miko Sloper. I'm a math teacher here at Leipzig International School. People say something about, you want some of your opinions as being an American, but I'm not an American, I'm a Californian. And there's a big difference.
Der schönste Jungfrau sitzt dort oben wunderbar, naked as a jaybird. A really nutty place on the west coast of the US, where people with more money than they have sense live totally bizarre lives that aren't real.
Well, I'd say that for me and most Americans, Hollywood is more or less the only film industry.
Oh, and they make movies and television shows there.
Hollywood is basically a place in Southern California where images are manufactured. I think of it as the propaganda center of the US, the cultural propaganda center of the US.
These are just sort of big American things. Hollywood and LA.
I think that the stuff is plastic, it's horrible. Most of what they do in terms of image making does things to make people dissatisfied with their lives, and this dissatisfaction makes them better consumers. So I think a lot of Hollywood is training to be a better consumer. And it also, one of their major byproducts is fear. Fear and trusting authorities. There's bad guys coming, but the cops will help you, right?
I have, and I've been to Universal Studios, and I mean it's a very interesting place. It's more of a theme park really, but there are attractions that have to do with the movie making, and I recommend you go there sometime. It's a great place.
I've been to LA and I've been to other places in California, but no, we avoided Hollywood, and it was a really long time ago. Too much. What they're showing is what's supposed to be a slice of real life, American life presumably, but it's not real. There's that standard response that, if it's a situation comedy, you have a problem, it's solved in 30 minutes, life goes on.
Well, I can't say how it is in other places, but as Americans, we don't really... There's not much value put on it, so we know about Hollywood, but the only thing we really attribute with it is the fact that we get to watch movies. When I was younger, we knew about Hollywood, we watched movies, but we didn't say anything about it. It's just, that's Hollywood.
Absolutely. And a lot of that has to do with America is the greatest country in the world, which is absolute nonsense, but a lot of Americans believe it. And a lot of Americans believe it because Hollywood tells them that.
I didn't have direct thoughts that had to do with Hollywood and my country, but I guess I could say that if I then spoke to other people about it, I would have a sort of sense of pride in a way. But directly, no.
Young people in places like East Europe or South America or wherever, and they look at what looks to them like normal. People wearing crazy too much makeup and ridiculous expensive clothing, and their nails are always perfect. Yeah, and a lot of boob showing, right? And crazy cars and ridiculous consumerism. And they think, wow, if I can get to America, that's what my life is going to be like. I mean, they have no idea that what they're showing is this rich, famously the 2%.
Honestly, I don't think Hollywood very accurately portrays anything. I mean, it's sort of, I see it as a media-controlled corporation in a way, but maybe the best example is the most recent movie, American Sniper. that movie was, it was basically a huge advertisement just to say, America's good, America's right. And honestly, I don't think you really see that very well when you're living in America. But once you've actually seen the rest of the world, at least a little bit, you start to realize a little bit more about how biased a lot of the things that they do are.
I first realized that when I went to Scotland back in, golly, 92, 93, something like that. And everywhere I was younger, I was skinnier, that's kind of cute. And everywhere I went, I met these guys, and they were coming on to me, and it's like they thought I was going to go home and jump in the sack. And all of a sudden I realized, oh, this is what chicks do on TV shows.
When I come here, the people that do go there, I've met a few, and the image that they have of America is pretty much the, because it's people my age, is the America is party land. You know, there's the red plastic cup. Everybody knows the red plastic cup is used in any party anywhere in America for purposes.
Yeah.
And I do feel that very, very many of my friends here, for instance, lots of Germans, people from Jordan, anywhere, they all say, so that's what it's like. And for the red solo cup, yes, we do use that in all parties. But other things, it's not so much so. Like they say, anywhere you can find a party, it's lots of fun anywhere you go. But I mean, America's a big land. These movies make it seem like anywhere you go in America is great, but it's like anywhere. You find really nice areas, and then you find really bad areas.
The problems are either really dramatic. I mean, when you have a name like Desperate Housewives, really? Desperate? Not mildly depressed, not life is hard but we're coping, not, all my kids are on the honor roll except for one, Desperate Housewives, and they're all having sex with everybody else's husbands. I don't know people who behave that way. Or if I do, I might know one or two in the course of 53 years of my life. But yet so no, it doesn't. Or life is either so desperately horrible, truly desperately horrible, like on the crime shows. The crime shows are on all the channels here. And so there's the only thing that sells on TV is a horrible crime, right? Chop them up, rip them open murders. And so I have kids asking me here, wow, there's really a lot of crime in the US. Some places, yes, but it's not like there's a murder every single week that, the CIS squad or SCI squad has to come out and investigate. That's not real. But it gets you percentage points on, for the TV show people. And it sells commercials for the TV show people.
Sure. I mean, David mentioned various people like that. There have always been fringe people doing that stuff, and there still are. Some great movies are still being made in Southern California at some of these places that also make trash. But let's face it, 98% of the stuff they make is manipulative trash. Well, I've probably seen more foreign movies than American movies anyway, because foreign filmmakers, obviously there's a lot of exceptions to this, but the ones that make it to the American movie audience, they're like the best of them. So they're artistic as heck. So I grew up on, Truffaut movies and Herzog and a lot of Japanese movies and Indian movies, And I know a lot of Americans will not go to see a movie if you have to read the subtitles. And that's actually one of the things that annoys me about the German movie business is when they bring in movies from France or from Japan, whatever, even America, almost always they're dubbed. And I think, as I'm a bit of an actor myself, I've done a fair amount of community theater like that, I think an actor's voice is such a hugely important part of what they're doing. So to have somebody else's voice there, because people are too lazy to read what's going on, I think destroys a very important part of the movie.
remember one movie very distinctly, and that was the third Star Wars movie. And I remember that, you know, it made me cry. You know, you see Anakin do everything wrong, and
Oh, you know what? When did Star Wars come out?
Last year in high school, one of the movies that really moved me was 2001: A Space Odyssey. Kubrick. Absolutely amazing. I mean, it was one of those phases where I said, ooh, I want to be an astronaut.
I loved Star Wars, and this was, you know, this wasn't after he doctored it and redigitized it and blah, blah, blah. This was, and it was so different from anything that we had seen before. You know, my dad's generation had those spaghetti westerns that it was kind of based on, but for mine, it was, we all talked about it. We loved that movie.
I want to be in one of these really cool spinning things and go through space. Wow, this was gorgeous, you know? And I liked the kind of intellectual and artistic beginnings of that, you know, the beginnings of man and the tools and that one movement where he's beating something up and he throws the bone up and it swirls and turns into, and suddenly we're in the future. I mean, things like that. There were some artistic movies that really blew my mind, and that was one of the first ones that I remember.
I don't know, you know, there's ideas in it that you find in things like King Arthur and in a lot of other things, that nobility of character, that good versus evil. No gray lines, you know, everything now is blurred. Well, it might be right, it might be wrong, it has to be, what, I'm sorry, Anakin, what feels right for you? No. You know, the lines for good and evil were very clear cut, the decisions were clear cut, and I think that had a lot. I see that in my life. Not was that the only influence, but
today, for instance, I have lots of other movies that I prefer.
Yeah.
But back then, when I saw it, I thought, you know, that's really, this movie is very emotional to me. That's how I saw it. It just made me think I have to better myself to be like, not to be like him, because he's sort of the embodiment of evil, and you can't do that.
Star Wars.
I do get the feeling that Hollywood used to be worshipped in a way, and like I said, I don't see it as that big of a point anymore. But my friends in America, we don't. I mean, it's not like we talk about it. We don't mention it in any conversation, and if we do, we don't say particularly good things about it. So I'd say, for the people that are growing up now, I mean, in 20 years, I reckon Hollywood will just be another thing, really. You won't really think about it much. It's just Hollywood's Hollywood, Bollywood's Bollywood. They're just different companies.
I don't think there's as much creativity, but that's because I'm coming from and I know this ship has sailed, but I'm coming from why are they doing all these remakes of old movies? Can't you come up with anything new? Some things can be remade and they do a great job with it, but most of it is like, why are you messing with success? Do something different. Don't do something where I'm always going to compare this guy to Cary Grant. I've fallen in love with Cary Grant as an adult female. And or Clark, you know. So in that sense, I think some of the creativity's lost, and things are all some things are blending the same. But then again, you know, how often do you get something truly stupendous like a Star Wars coming out that changes everything? I think Disney did something really interesting with Maleficent when they fractured that fairy tale. But storytellers have been fracturing fairy tales for a long time. That idea wasn't new, it was just new on the screen.
Well, I would say probably not, because they're having, you know, more and more influence in terms of it's really easy to make movies and send out 10,000 copies of it. So Hollywood movies, how many of them are playing in Leipzig right now? Probably a dozen Hollywood movies here. And if you go to, you know, a place like Berlin or Frankfurt, there's probably even 24 Hollywood movies. So is it in decline? Unfortunately not. There's a lot of people that's just their sort of go-to thing, going out with some friends. What are we going to do tonight? I don't know, let's go out and see a movie. So it's really important relative to that. But also, I mean, nowadays, like I said, the DVDs, people will, you know, cocooning involves movies. You know, what are we going to do tonight? I don't know. Let's just stay home, order Chinese food, and watch a movie. What do we watch? Oh, I know. What did we get from Netflix, right? So Netflix or something like it is, you know, makes this stuff so easily available. So I think it's probably more important now than it ever has been.
When you watch a movie, generally you're not going to a movie thinking, I'm going to get told something, I'm going to get a message. And so, whereas when you listen to the news, when you read a newspaper, you're thinking, these are world events, what's happening here, I should listen to, I should take for granted. But in movies, again, I would say American Sniper with this one, it seems to me that the message they were trying to send out is that the war in Iraq was, we did it correctly, it was a good choice, and the message that predominantly is through America, which is that anybody that's not American is an Arab and is a terrorist. That is sort of what a lot of them think. And that is where the movies really come in handy, because you nowhere anymore you can say in the newspaper, these people are bad people, we do not like these people. And rightly so, because there's no reason. But in the movies you do get that. It's easier to get it into a movie because you can slip any kind of message in.
Even with all the things, you know, the downloading, the torrents and all that stuff, that's not as social as going to the theater on a Friday or Saturday night and hanging out with all your friends with the popcorn and the soda. Our popcorn's salty, not sweet. And it was a real shock when I first ate it, and I'm like, what is this? It drenched in butter. And you hang out, and it's loud, and your parents know you're going to be at the theater until whenever, so you get to stay out late, or you break your curfew and stay out late anyway. So it's a very social thing, and the kids go to see the movies.
I started off by saying something about Hollywood films as propaganda films. I think it's also a very useful anti-propaganda medium, because people are just kind of open to, here's an image and I can't not react to it. So there are some movies obviously have the possibility of touching people in really deep ways. So one of my favorite movies that really touched me is Koyaanisqatsi. That's a word that's in the Hopi language. It means something like earth out of balance. And it's basically these images of all the crazy stuff that humans are doing. And it's done in a way that makes you feel somewhere between sympathy and shame. And I've got to do something about this. And I think anybody that can make a movie that can make people aware that there is more to life than consumerism and being glamorous. You know, there is a bigger picture. There are things that are more important than what most movies want to convince you of. Using this hugely important propaganda organ as an anti-propaganda tool, I think, is a hugely important thing to do. So if people who are in the business of media, whether it's computer media, actually making movies, rap songs, I don't care. There's a lot of people who use rap music as a way of political enlightenment. Other people use it as a way of, you know, reinforcing the commodity culture. Women as commodities, drugs as commodities. I've got more gold than you. I've got flashier cars than you. Other people use rap music as a way of waking people up. I hope that people do the same thing with film. That's certainly a possibility. Film can either put you to sleep or it can wake you up. So you guys know what it's about, so there you have it.